All right, we have some breaking news to show you. Skyfox over this police pursuit. It's a slow-speed police pursuit in the general area of East LA. Now, what we're told is that the pursuit started in the downtown LA area. It is believed there are two people in this vehicle. One might be a shooting suspect, and thus having LAPD behind this white SUV or white van. Now, we've been keeping an eye on this, but just for the last couple of minutes, and apparently the vehicle, as you see, is not going particularly fast, is sort of wending its way through neighborhoods in the East LA area and basically staying in the same basic area, this particular neighborhood. At one point, the vehicle did stop, and police thought that the pursuit was over. Police got out of the car, thinking that they could then approach the vehicle, only to have the vehicle take off again. And that's where we are at this hour, is taking a look at this vehicle as it drives along on surface streets, has not gone onto the freeway as yet. We're so used to seeing them on the freeway. You see up there with our smart navigation, you can tell what streets they are, but basically this is East LA, and in this case, the vehicle is sort of stopping or being somewhat careful before making that left-hand turn. So again, we see law enforcement right behind. We're seeing a little bit more speed there as the vehicle, that white vehicle, takes off, driving on Sun Terrace, City Terrace rather, and near Herbert Avenue. Taking this right turn now, and again, you can tell the helicopter's overhead with its sun gun. All right, making a turn and getting closer probably to an on-ramp to the freeway. It's possible that this person may have some knowledge of the area. That's what we oftentimes say when they stay in a certain vicinity. It looks as if the vehicle is now on the 110 near the Soto off-ramp. So this is the San Bernardino freeway at this point. For the first time, we're seeing this vehicle on a freeway as the speeds, they are much higher than they have been when they were on the surface streets there. In fact, in the very beginning of the police pursuit, it seemed as if it was not a high-speed pursuit, more like a slow-speed pursuit. But you see now the speeds are going up over 90 miles per hour. And the law enforcement, the black and whites, not far behind. But again, these days, cars, depending on how much gas you have in that car could go for a while if it doesn't want to stop. All right. Thank you for joining us on the Fox 11 News at 10. Now it's time for Good Night LA.
All right, I'm Christine Devine here in for Marla Tellez, and we begin tonight with a pursuit. You're looking at this live right here. It is in the Boyle Heights area now, and Susan Hirosuna, you've been covering this on the 10 p.m. news. This pursuit in not a lot of traffic.
Not a lot of traffic at this hour, right at 11 o'clock at night. The good news is not a lot of traffic, so not endangering other vehicles per se. What we know about this, Christine, is not much other than to say we believe the police pursuit started in the downtown LA area. It is believed there are two people in this vehicle, and one of them could be a shooting suspect, and thus this pursuit started. We had watched this vehicle driving in the East LA area, kind of going around in, around the block and around the block again, so staying in the general vicinity. And it was only right at the end of the Fox 11 News at 10 that we noticed the vehicle going onto the on-ramp. Now it looks as if it's getting off the 10, or it's at that transition between the 10 and the 101. We've kind of lost it there.
Let's go to our police expert, Tim Lynn, who's following this for us. So obviously, Tim, you have greater concern if we're talking about a possible shooting suspect here.
Right. Yeah, that increases the danger for the officers who are following, because if this person is wanted for a shooting, he's already shown the ability and the means of using deadly force to be able to get away. LAPD has really been working this real well. They were up in the City Terrace, Boyle Heights area for quite a while, as you mentioned, going around the Marengo and area just south of the 10 freeway, and you saw him get on the freeway here, go to the west a little bit. Now he's reversed course back to the east, probably going back to that familiar territory that we talked about. But they have suspended this pursuit at one point because the speeds were so fast that the watch commander decided to back off and go into surveillance mode, as they call it, let the helicopter follow it. And then once he got onto the surface streets, they re-engaged. Now, you can see that the ground units have backed off quite a bit. The Night Sun from the helicopter keeping an eye on the car and giving its location. The units that are in the area are going to be able to track it from the side streets and be able to keep in the area and to move through as it comes off again. If it does get back off at Marengo or that area, City Terrace, where it was before, they'll be ready for it. And what they try to do is stay in the area, so when this suspect does get out of the car, they have plenty of officers in the area to contain the perimeter and take the person into custody. But right now, it looks like they've backed off quite a bit. I'm not seeing any emergency vehicle lights behind it and letting it run, because it's at 75, 80 miles an hour here passing traffic. And as you were talking, a very light traffic on the 10 freeway for this time of night.
But as you pointed out, Tim, when you see that Night Sun, we see the Night Sun. We recognize that there is a police helicopter overhead with that Night Sun spotlight on the vehicle. Is the driver able to tell that there is that spotlight, or you can't really see it when you're in the car?
Yeah, but you can. I mean, I've spoken to people that we've chased and people that I've been involved with, and once the light goes on, they know they're being followed. They know that the police are with them. And normally when they go into a surveillance mode, we'll turn off that light. They see her getting back off at City Terrace, as I said earlier, if he goes back down to that familiar area. Yeah, so he's showing the pattern that he wants to stay in that City Terrace area and work those streets, because he was just making big squares earlier. But going back to the Night Sun, that's 50,000 candle powered light that's on to him. That helicopter is only about 300 feet above him, and so not only can they see the light, but they can hear that helicopter making turns over the top of them. So there's no doubt that this driver knows that helicopter is there, and now you see the police units getting back closer as he gets on the surface street here. And once again, we're back in that City Terrace area. Now, they're just going to follow and stay with us and try to keep this as calm as possible so they're not endangering other drivers on the road. But it's completely up to the driver of that white vehicle. They're the one calling the shots at this point. They're the ones that are going to cause an issue if they continue on. But luckily, really hasn't been doing a lot of erratic driving. I mean, they are speeding, they are driving with their lights out, but I'm not seeing a lot of blowing between cars, going through intersections on red lights. At least they slowed down just a little bit. And here's a real quick turn here. Just like after.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, and he's on this street before.
Yeah, as we're watching this one here, we're not talking necessarily about a stolen car that we know of, but we have heard that there might be a second person in the vehicle. That also is a game changer with the way they cover this pursuit, right?
Right, yeah, because everybody now is a suspect in that vehicle, because they don't know which one is possibly the shooter. Normally it's the driver they try to concentrate on, but on a situation like this, they'll do their best to keep an eye on both people coming out of this car, if there are two people. And mostly they're trying to get intel right now to find out what seat the shooter is in, if this is a shooting suspect, as they earlier reported. But right now, you see heading up Gage, and we've been in this area on Pomeroy, Gage, and Marengo, Herbert, and all this area before, just racing around. But he kind of got into that one curve a little quick, and I'm kind of getting it to the point now he's trying to get to a point where he can get out, but this ground units are pretty close behind him, so more than likely he'll stay on the gas and try to outrun the car on the ground. So once they see that little clear area, they hope to be able to get out of the car and get away before the ground units get to them, because we've seen that before. When they go to surveillance mode, the ground units are so far away that once they get out, they're hard to keep track of with the helicopter, and then sometimes they do get into an area where the helicopter can't keep an eye on them just because of the buildings, the trees, and the other obstacles that are on the ground. But right now, I can guarantee you the East LA Sheriffs, the LAPD Newton Division, along with the Hollenbeck Division, have this area swarming with police cars. And once this comes to a stop, you're going to see a lot of cars coming into the area and a lot of officers trying to lock down the area where the suspect went. That you have to keep in mind as an officer getting out, going after them, that they are reported suspects in a shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as we watch the driver has definitely blown through a couple of stop signs. The good news is at this hour, there aren't a lot of people out, not a lot of traffic. So that hasn't been as dangerous as it could be. Went through a green light, so is fully aware of those kind of situations. And now it seems to be a bit of a zigzag progress here and a pattern here. Tim, do drivers in this situation, and you said that you've had an opportunity to talk to drivers that had been pursued and then eventually arrested, are they thinking about where they're going, or are they just doing these random turns?
Some of them are trying to get away to where they just run until they run out of options. Others will stay in an area they're familiar with, hoping to get enough distance between the officers and the ground to where they can get out, get over a couple fences and find a friendly house to get into. That's one of the things you see when you see these circling the same blocks, using the same streets and things of that sort. They're working around trying to get to a point to where they can get out. In their mind, and the ones I've talked to, they're trying to get away, and their mission in life right now is to get away. And the ones that you see that get up on the freeway and just drive straight for a couple hours, they're just delaying. They just don't want to go to jail, and they know they're going to end up there, but they're trying to delay it as far as possible. But the activity of this one, from my prior experience in both police cars, police helicopters, he looks like he's trying to get to a familiar, or stay in a familiar area, to where once he gets that little gap between him and the ground units, that driver and passenger are going to try to take off on foot and get us into the houses and the buildings as quickly as possible and get out of the sight of that helicopter. But, the guys in helicopters, those tactical flight officers, are very good at what they do. They not only use that night sun, they also use infrared technology to follow them with a camera.
And noting we are back in the Boyle Heights area, we talk about this being, and noting there are freeways in the area. Oh, we saw a police car right there. So this driver choosing not to stay on the freeways, not to get back on a freeway, like you said, and just drive and drive and drive.
Right. And like I said, he got on that westbound 10 freeway, got all the way down towards downtown, and decided to make the U-turn and come back east and get right back off and to the same area of Boyle Heights. And so right now we're just continuing on First Street here. And this is going to keep him right in this area. And we're probably going to see a couple more turns to take him back the opposite direction, back to the west, to get back into that area just below the 10 freeway and City Terrace area, because that looked like the area that he really was enjoying, the Floral, Hazard, Telegraph, or City Terrace area. So, it's just a matter of time. He also might be looking for that, that parking structure that we've seen so many times too. He might try to find one of those to get into and try to get away from that helicopter, because that's the only thing that's keeping an eye on him for some of this pursuit. But LAPD is right behind him, and they're not going to let go.
If you're just joining us now, this is Good Night LA on Fox 11, and this is a police pursuit that started right before the end of the Fox 11 News at 10. We've been watching this white vehicle, this van or SUV. We are told there is a shooting suspect inside. The pursuit actually began in downtown LA, but we've watched as the driver has stayed in this basic vicinity of Boyle Heights, Southgate, East LA. Just east of downtown LA, there was some part of this pursuit where it looked as if perhaps the driver would go back towards downtown LA. They were on the freeway, but then they got off again. As we see this progression on First Street, on East First Street.
Yeah, I'm watching this area. Just went over the Los Angeles River there on the bridge, as you see going along, and it's saying east on First Street, but this is kind of give you an idea. It might be heading west, but just kind of watching him here. You see that area right there to the left that goes underground. We've had several pursuits go down the tracks and go under the ground and get under the street, and then they abandon the vehicle in there. So
right.
I don't know if you had that in mind or whatever, but that has been a move that they've made.
By the way, that's the Japanese American National Museum that the car just passed.
Okay.
So I think when it says East First Street, it's not the direction that the driver is going, but that part of First Street, which is actually the eastern part, East First Street. So downtown LA, now the driver is in downtown LA, just leaving Little Tokyo, heading towards, frankly, LAPD headquarters.
And blowing through a red light there, you saw pedestrians walking in the crosswalk there. Tim, when you think about downtown, it's pretty much closed down at this hour. Businesses aren't really operating much at this hour, but you do have a homeless population that could be out there on the streets as well.
That is right. You have just because the businesses are closed and people are gone, you still have a pretty good population downtown as you went through a red light right there, and also it becomes very difficult for that observer in the helicopter to keep an eye on it when he goes between these tall buildings. So right now, I'm sure he's calling for those ground units to start tightening this up, get a little closer to him. So if once he makes that turn and gets behind the building, gets under trees, they can get some eyes on that driver or that passenger. But as we continue on, this is probably crossing out of the 110 freeway, if I'm just going by what I see.
Yes.
And then turning now southbound, going to parallel the freeway.
So that's near the LAUSD headquarters. So that car is passing by on Beaudry. You can get back on the freeway easily from this location, but you're right. I have seen situations where a vehicle was in the downtown LA area and there are so many high rises and so much density that we lost the vehicle, and so did police.
Yes, and there you see him stopping at basically a green light, now trying to figure out which way he wants to go, because you have a freeway street there, one that goes off to the right as he's taking right now, and this is going to take him over a little further west of the 110 freeway. See, now here we're having the issue with the buildings. In fact, let's see if he comes out the other side. So this is what the observer or the tactical flight officer in the police helicopter is dealing with as well, but sticking with him as best can. Units now have tightened up, like I said, and they're going to stay pretty close to him. Now, 3rd and Vixel is where, I think LAUSD is.
No, it's just past. Yeah, it's just past LAUSD headquarters.
Yeah, so now we're heading off to the west into the Westlake area. And so now you're going to start seeing more population on the street because of the large homeless population around the MacArthur Park area. So, but anywhere down here, people are out all hours of the night walking, and luckily driving slowly, going slowly through the green lights. Now, I don't know if I keep saying he, but the driver is thinking of where am I going to go, how am I going to get out of here, what's going through his head right now, but not wanting to get caught is his main goal in life right now.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm surprised LAPD hasn't gone up and tried some type of pursuit intervention technique or a pit maneuver at this point. But right now, it might be because they have further information about the shooting suspect, that the person has a gun, has shot.
Turning into, okay, it's just a narrow street. I thought perhaps it was a driveway, but a more narrow street where the driver had to be quite cautious about making that right-hand turn.